Hello, everyone, and welcome to this live stream. It all feels rather weird doing it this way, but given that you're all sat at home and it's a strange situation that we're all in, I thought it might be a good way of letting you know what it is that you have to do. So the plan for today, hopefully we can get through all of this reasonably quickly, is to give you an overview of the course to let you know what you're going to be doing and why we're doing it, and then to have a look at M1, which is the next task that you've got due in a fortnight's time, and what you need to do to complete that task. And then take any questions from you at the end. Let me know that you're there on the chat. Just say hello, and I will try to answer any questions that you've got. Obviously, if you're more than happy to email me, however you want to try to get hold of me. All right, so let's start off by looking at the course as a whole. You know that we've got 11 different tasks to do. You've got the P tasks, all 6 of them in front of you there on the right-hand side. And you've got the merit tasks as well, 3 of those, and 2 distinction tasks. So you've got a total of 11 different tasks that you need to do to complete the entire unit. If you want your distinction, you need to pass all 11 tasks. If you want a merit, you've got to pass all of them apart from the 2 distinction tasks. And if you want to pass, you've got to pass the 6 pass tasks. However, the complication is if you fail one of the pass tasks, then it's a fail overall. Now, theoretically, the pass tasks are easier than the merit tasks, and the merit tasks are easier than the distinction tasks, and by and large that's true, but you need to bear in mind that what OCR have had to do is chop up a whole process, bringing something to market, and then try to turn it into 11 different chunks. So it's an inexact science, but by the end of it you will have covered all the work that you need to do to bring something to market. Just want to draw your attention to the bottom graphic there, where you can see this is the order in which the tasks are done. So you go from P1 to M1 to P2 and so on. That's the workflow right down at the bottom there. I'm going to whiz through these different tasks really, really quickly. Don't want to spend too long on this, but I think it's helpful for you to have an overview of how this thing actually works. So P1 you've done, you've described the waterfall method, and well done. I had all of your work in apart from 3 or 4, and the work that you put in was of a really high standard. So that was an exceptionally good start to the course, so well done. You've had your feedback, get that back to me as soon as possible, please. So P1 done. I'm going to talk about M1 in a minute today, but that's still sticking with product development methodologies. From M1 we go on to P2, which is quite a big piece of work. That's where you actually you move away from theory and you start to look at the application that you're going to develop, which is an app for a driving school so that students can book their appointments online. And once you've done P2, we then go to M2. M2 is the feasibility study. M2 is an awful lot of work, and that's probably the single biggest task you have to do, which is why we give you 3 weeks to do it. You complete M2, you go to P3, which you've got to produce a few diagrams, not too bad. After P3, we look at D1, which is where you've got to justify the decisions that you've made. From there on to P4, where you do a pitch, and you'll pitch your app to me or Mr. Godfrey, and we'll give you some feedback. Once you've had your feedback, you'll make some changes to it. We then go on to M3 after that one, which is your communication with the client. And it's worth reminding you that you actually do need to have communication with the client via email from the very, very early stage of this, to show that you're actually doing what you would do in business. So P3, quite easy. P5, you make your prototype. So you'll make your app, you'll do it in something like PowerPoint. So you'll just bring all the boxes together, all the buttons together, and link it up using hyperlinking. Again, nothing too taxing there. From P5, you go to P6. And in P6, that's where you write a questionnaire to collect end user feedback. And then in D2, you make some improvements to your product based on that feedback that you've received. That's a whistle-stop tour, but I think it helps everyone to have a bit of an idea of what it is that you're actually going to be doing in this task. So over the course of the unit, rather. Now we've got M1. So what I want to do is go through a really short presentation that tells you exactly what you need to do with M1. Again, any questions, let me know. I'm going to leave some time at the end for you to ask some chat questions, but I can see the chat window up there. It's all very quiet at the moment. So we are doing task M1. It's a merit task 1, and this is from the specification, and it actually asks you to think about how you're going to create this merit. Let me just get this working. There we go. This is from the teaching material. And you can see that you've already done the first task. That was the P1 task, where you're talking about the waterfall method. Most of you spoke about the waterfall method and the different stages. And then the second part of this, these are the different methodologies that you're going to have to look at for M1. So you've done waterfall, you've got the iterative model, agile, rapid, spiral and prototype. Well, you can forget the prototype because discussing 4 of these is more than enough. So we're going to focus on the iterative, the agile, rapid and spiral. And don't forget, there is a video, a YouTube video, which is up on my channel for each of those 4. We'll break down what exactly you have to do, but going onto that channel and looking through these different methodologies, taking some notes, and fundamentally it's about getting your head around why you've got these different methodologies. What's the point? Why not only have the waterfall methodology? And obviously, having watched all the videos and taken some notes, you should have a pretty solid answer to that one. So this is from the specification, M1 task. It says, compare and contrast different application development models. That in itself isn't that helpful. So you need to dig in, and don't forget, this is online. All of this information is online. If you go to Google Classroom, all of these resources are there. I've simply pulled a few to show you what you need to do. Now then, this is the marking guidance. So this is what the moderator is looking at when she comes in to look at your work in a couple of weeks' time. This is what she'll be looking for. So M1, learners should consider the similarities and differences between different application development models. That's the first part. And the second part is explain how different models are appropriate for different types of project. And this is written as an extension to the P1 task. So that's more helpful because it does tell you exactly what it is that you need to do and what I'm looking for when I come to mark your work. So let's break it down into a series of subtasks that you're going to need to do over the next 2 weeks. Your first job is to describe in detail the rapid application development model, the incremental model, the spiral model, and the agile model. Now, you don't need to repeat the waterfall method because you've done that, but also you don't need to repeat what happens in each of the stages. We know that. What we're looking for here is how these models actually operate in real life. What is different about the way that a business would use these models compared to the waterfall model, or whichever one you covered in P1. Most of you did the waterfall model. So that's your first step. This second one, this is not a core requirement, but I think it's really helpful if you can show that you understand the advantages and disadvantages of each model. And the reason that I ask you to do that is because that then leads you really neatly into the last part, which is the last but one part, which is describing which model is similar to which other model. So you might talk about the spiral model and say that it's similar to another model because it's iterative, but it's not the same as this model because of why. Why are they asking you to do this? It's so that they want to be clear that you actually have a high level understanding of not just saying what these models are, but why you would choose one over another in a given situation. So that's the third part there. The fourth part is reasonably straightforward, and it's thinking about why a given model suits a particular type of project. So there'll be certain models that suit projects that are short. There'll be certain models that suit projects with a low or a high budget. There are certain models that work better for complex projects. And one of the key areas is that for some projects, you know exactly what's going to be happening in advance. You can be 99% sure of everything that you're going to encounter along the way. Whereas perhaps if you're doing something with, if you're working with brand new software and you're working with new hardware, it might be that things will change dramatically as you're going along. So that's something else to think about. And that, again, is defined there as the product definition being stable. So those are key things to think about. Also, people and when they are available. Some project methodologies insist that people are available at a specific time. Well, that is something of a hindrance when you're trying to manage a large workforce. So all of these are different ways in which a project is going to suit a certain type of model, and that's something else that you'll need to cover in this task. So, in summary, for M1, your first step is to watch these videos, take notes on those 4 different methodologies. Then, when you come to write your essay, explain briefly how each one works. We're talking about a paragraph or 2. Then discuss the advantages and disadvantages, a short paragraph on that, and then cover the similarities and differences. So if you start off by describing the rapid methodology, describe what it's like and what it's not like. And then at the end of that, say what sort of project the rapid methodology works for. So that's the M1 task pretty much explained. There are much longer videos of mine that you can go and watch, and I suggest you do. And there's also a longer version of this video which will talk you through exactly what you need to do. However, you're going to need to be organised. With this piece of work, you cannot leave it until the last day or 2 because you simply won't get it done. Students always ask me, how much do I have to write? It's a dreadful question that I absolutely hate. But generally speaking, between 3 and 5 sides is what most students have come up with for this task. But of course, it depends how good the 3 or the 5 sides that you actually write are. It really is about the quality and not about anything else. Okay, so we're coming on to the last bit now before I take your questions. And I wanted to just, again, give you an overview of how this is going to work. Why are we doing this task now? Why are you doing Unit 6? Because it's all online. And because I've made these resources, it means that you can do this from the comfort of your own home. It means that we can get back to school whenever that does happen, and you're not going to have missed out. So as long as you remember that you're going to need to be resourceful, you're going to need to do some finding out and some research for yourself. And if you're stuck, you're going to need to ask me. And as long as you are resourceful, and as long as you use the resources that I've given you, you should find this to be quite manageable. You can see the 11 tasks in front of you. You've got either 1, 2 or 3 weeks for each task. And that is linked to how much work you have to do. The P1 task was quite straightforward, so you got a week for that. The M1 task is quite a lot of writing and quite a lot of research, and you need to really process quite a lot of information to come up with M1 task. P2 is a challenging task. Again, that's 2 weeks, and it's worth bearing in mind that the order of these, because logically you would think it would go P1, P2, P3. Unfortunately, it doesn't do that. But you've got the sequence on the right-hand side there. So, and again, you've got a copy of this on Google Classroom. So I'm just showing you what is already out there. I wanted to talk about one more thing before we go to any questions, and that is about submitting your tasks. I was really impressed that you all managed to get your work in on time, bar a couple of you. That meant that I could mark it on the same day, I could get it back to you, I could give you good customer service. Can we please keep that going? Because if I'm able to feed back to you earlier rather than later, it gives you far more chance of actually delivering good quality work over the course of the entire unit. I want to not finger waggle at you, but I want to point out a couple of things that you really do need to be aware of. Getting the work in on time, I've covered. The second thing is about plagiarising. If they're not your words, it's plagiarism. If you've copied it off the internet and not cited your sources, it's plagiarism. One final thing on that, if someone asks to borrow your work and you give it to them and they get caught copying, it means that you will both possibly lose your qualification. So if someone asks for your work, don't give it to them, even if they're your mate, because it's something that could cost you your A-level, and it would be an awful thing to happen. Just some housekeeping. When I give you feedback, can you please make sure that when you return it to me, make the corrections in red? It then draws my attention in a really simple way to what you've done and to what I need to look at. Otherwise, I end up looking through 5, 10, 15 sheets of A4 in order to figure out what's different from the first time round. So I'm going to be difficult and return it to you if you don't make the corrections in red, because it's quite an easy thing for you to do, but it doubles my marking time if you don't do that. All the sanctions are down there, which I don't intend going into now. And anyway, we can't sanction you while you're at home, but we can let your parents know. But please, get your work in on time. That's the most important thing and the best way that I can really, really support you. I think one thing that I want to say is that we're going to get to task P2 and M2 fairly soon. And at the moment, you've been doing task M1, and M1 was quite straightforward. It may have got your heart beating quite slowly, but it was a challenge that you could meet. Then we go from there and we start to get into P2 and M2, and the challenges start to get that little bit harder. And it's the point at which, if you don't actually keep up with what you need to do, suddenly you feel very alone and things start getting very, very difficult. And the more you fall behind, the further behind you fall, and the more a nightmare it becomes. Now, we don't want any of that. We want things to be wonderful. So can we please try to stick to being organised, resourceful? If you're struggling, ask me in the first place. I don't want to know you couldn't do it on the day that it's due in, because that's just too late for everyone. All right, so that's really, really important that you're organised, because let's face it, you're at home and you've got plenty of time to get things done at the moment. I'm going to go on to the comments section and see if any of you have got anything that you want to ask me. So far, no one has asked me anything at all. So this is quite easy. So if any of you got any questions, is anyone alive? This is looking about as successful as the Moodle chat where I logged in. Oh, Mr. Godfrey's here. That is fantastic. Tilly's asking, hello, Mr. Godfrey. How are you? Thank you very much indeed. It's a bit weird doing it this way. Do you like my my little character? He's got more hair than me. But it saves you having to look at my face. Tilly is asking, do we need to download any software for this? No, you don't. When it comes to actually creating the prototype, you can do this using PowerPoint. There's no specialised software you'll need for it. And in fact, there's no specialised software you'll need for the entire course. Yeah, I do look younger, don't I? It's I had downloaded a character who looked about 24, and I thought that was just too cheeky of me. So I thought I'd get someone who looks, vaguely battered by life. Oh, in real life, you're very kind. My son reckons I look like Philip Schofield. So is there anyone else who's got any questions now that I'm sat here staring at a screen? So how about people letting me know who's there? Who's actually watching this? We've got Tilly, we've got Mr. Godfrey. Is anyone else of the other 14 of you who are online, do any of you dare say hello? Okay, well, that looks like we're drawing to the end of this then. So I'm hopefully going to be doing this more often, and I'd like to catch up with you. Oh, hello, Aaron. How are you? Nice to see you. Aaron, how's life at home? Are you busy doing nothing? Hi, Jamie. How are you? Oh, people have woken up. How nice. It is really nice to see you all. So it is a really weird situation, isn't it? But the good news is that that doing with all these resources we've got online, you don't need to suffer in any way because of this horrible coronavirus business. It should not affect this unit at all. But the deadlines we've got are quite tight, and you're going to need to stick to them. Well, everyone's saying hello now. Well, that is really nice. Has anyone got any questions about this task, or any questions in general about the course? Or now that Mr. Godfrey's here, anything you'd like to ask him? And we can go through those, and if not, we can call it a day. Well, I think that's it. So thank you very much for joining this this first stream. I'll probably organise one of these towards the end of the week or at the start of next week, where you can bring any questions that you have. All right, nice to speak to you all. Bye bye.